Google All Blacks Haka video spelled H-A-K-A to see the greatest pregame intimidation dance of all time. But no matter where I go, what team jersey I wear, I bleed red, white, and blue. See, I still have my tattoo and socks on from the Women's World Cup. There's a tattoo, there's socks, yeah. So that was from the other night, and I still have a personal rugby story, but first, if you want to learn to control alcohol and get free tips and coaching from me and other awesome coaches from around the world on how to live an incredible life while being alcohol free, then be sure to start now by subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss a thing. And join in on live group Zoom coaching calls. We are the AFR.org. That's wearetheafr.org. To find out whether my program is right for you or not, check the description below. So I'm going to do a little walk around while we do this. Please ask any questions you have in the comments so I can answer them on a future episode. We are with you, and speaking of walking, you'll never walk alone. Now for the rugby story. The lie that I believed for a long time was that I needed to drink to be a man. I spent far too many years trying to prove myself and to others that I was a man. A man's man, a Western-like hero who's always composed and always in control. The truth was, however, that I was almost never in control, especially when I was drinking. It took me far too long to realize this. The lie happened slowly, then all at once, and it started innocuously enough, even if in retrospect, I can now see the warning signs, which were as subtle as a missing tooth. Let me explain. By the age of 20, I had rarely visited anywhere outside of Oklahoma, let alone outside of the United States. When I was in college, I had a chance to be an exchange student at a university just outside of Liverpool. I was lost, totally out of place. This was before cell phones and GPS, and I think it took me longer to get from the London airport to Liverpool than it did from Oklahoma City to London. The second afternoon I was there, I went to the school's bar where the faculty and students were having a get-together for the beginning of the school year. I stood there among the crowd. I was feeling very alone and out of place, insecurely drinking on my third pint of ale. Then finally, a female student spoke to me, and after we chatted about the area for a while, she asked me to sit down in a private booth with her. A few minutes later, a drunk student came out of the nowhere, flopped down basically on top of her, and spilled most of his beer all over her. Visibly annoyed, she gathered herself and politely introduced him as her friend from her hometown. He looked me over. I could tell he was sizing me up. He put his arm around the girl's shoulders and neck. She squirmed to get loose. I stood up, went to the edge of the table, and told him to let her go. He stood and put his Liverpool nose directly up to my Okie nose. Then he spit saliva and beer all over my face. "You fucking American poofta!" And he pushed his finger into my eye. At that time, I had no idea what a poofta was, but I knew it was not a compliment. I now know it's a derogatory slur Neanderthals like this guy too often hurl when they're drunk and looking for a fight. I should have turned my dry other cheek, but I was about 20 years old, still full of anger, severely jet-lagged, with 3 strong pints of English ale in me. I was having absolutely none of it. So I reached back across the Atlantic with my right hand, high-fived the Statue of Liberty, then let my new friend, full of ale, have a nice howdy partner American fist to his left cheek. He went down in a Liverpudlian puddle. His buddy, who was standing behind me, shattered a bottle of beer on the table, put his jagged edge up under my chin, and thankfully a large bald guy from the crowd pulled the jagged bottle away from me and my neck and calmed everyone down. The next day, the same bald guy introduced himself as the captain of the rugby team. Impressed with what he had witnessed the day before, he asked me to join the team. I'd played American football and thought rugby would be kind of like the same thing, but without pads or helmet, and I was extremely wrong. To the naked eye, rugby and American football may look a lot alike, but the only things they have in common are the field, known as the pitch, the goalpost, and the shape of the ball. After that, it's a completely different sport. So on to now the wig of the match. I had 2 quick practices and suddenly found myself on the pitch for the start of a match with a rival university. Just before kickoff, I looked around at the other players and they had tape circling all around their heads and mouth guards hanging from their lips. No one had bothered to tell me to tape my head or to get a mouth guard. I thought the tape looked really funny and didn't have a country boy clue what it was for. As I looked down at myself in my cleats, socks, shorts, and t-shirt, I analyzed the size of the players on the other team and thought, this doesn't feel right. Even Pufta soccer players get to wear shin guards. Like, what's going on? As we engage the other team's scrum, when each team links arms and lunges head first toward the other, I felt my ear just absolutely ripped down. It wasn't too painful, as apparently ears don't have a lot of nerves in them, but ears sure can bleed. Blood was absolutely everywhere, and my ear was hanging down, almost halfway split from my head. So I went up to the ref, showed him, he blew his whistle and stopped the match to take a look. All he did though was smile with his crooked, stained English teeth and say, "Just a little blood, mate. Go on, have another go." A player from the other team was upset that I stopped the match to have my ear checked, and of course called me a pufta. At that second, my mind went into fight or flight mode. I unfortunately chose fight, which I always seemed to do in my younger, more aggressive drunk days. But I also had a plan to get tossed out of the match. With my cranked up fight mode and helter-skelter scheme to get the ref to disqualify me, I now viewed this as an all-out kill or be killed war with the other team. I was throwing clotheslines, forearms to their ball carriers' heads. My knees and cleats were mashing parts of everybody's body. I was diving on piles with kamikaze-style elbows, blaring out, just everything I could do. I didn't care about the rules, the game, or the score. I just wanted to go get stitches in my hanging ear. It was absolute anarchy until all of a sudden I intercepted a pass and ran 80 meters, which is like yards but longer, to the left quarter of our end zone, whose name I still don't know. I stood there with the ball in my hand, looking back at everyone else, equal parts shocked and triumphant. I was expecting my team and our fans to be rejoicing and happy, but they were all yelling and waving at me to get down, get down. And I saw the other team begin to run, pick up speed, running at me. What the hell do I need to do? I have no idea. The fastest member of my team made it to me first, and he swiped the ball from me just before we both got absolutely obliterated by one of the other team's players. The 3 of us were lying in the end zone, or whatever that's called, and my teammate slammed the ball to the ground. The ref finally blew the whistle, signaling a touchdown, or whatever that's called. Lying there face down on that glorious, foggy, cold November day with mud and blood all in my eyes, I heard my captain define the situation for the other team, loud enough that many of the fans could hear it as well. He's American. Later in the match, my front right top tooth got connected with a Scouser's head and split to the root. A Scouser is a person from Liverpool. The name fits these compassionate, kind, and sophisticated rugby gentlemen to a T. The match ended mercilessly. To this day, my body has never been so completely torn up as it was that moment. All I wanted was a doctor and a dentist. I asked my captain where I could find both. It didn't matter which one I saw first. "Nah, mate, not yet," he replied. My compassionate Scouser rugby captain informed me that after the match, the tradition is to go have a drink or 7 with the other team. "What?" I screamed, but silently, as I did not want to go to be called a pufta again, especially by my team's captain. "I need serious medical attention." At the pub, the other team awarded me wig of the match, or player of the match. I don't know or care at the time what the wig thing meant, but they lifted me from my muddy chair, put a large blonde, feminine wig over my mud and blood-encrusted head, and made me stand on stage in front of a huge crowd with the other team's wig of the match. Okay, haha, very funny, I thought, as I started to limp my way off the stage. But no, that was not the end of being wig of the match. Now it was apparently time to enjoy a fresh pint filled with half Guinness and half with whatever else the other team decided to throw in there. As I watched my sworn enemies put mayonnaise, mustard, Tabasco, beans, salt into my drink, my stomach began to turn. The other wig and I had to get the whole disaster pint down while the entire pub of sophisticated Brits sang the light classical tune Zulu Warrior. "Get it down, you Zulu warrior," yelled the entire pub as I gulped and gagged on my eclectic cocktail. "Get it down, you Zulu chief, chief, chief." I was about halfway done and realized that was the end of the song. The other wig had his pint of swill all down. This meant I got to have a whole new pint and try to get it down in the approximately 11 seconds it took for the pub to sing the song again. I tried round 2 with all my might, no luck, and now the whole pub of Scousers were pointing at me at the end of the song while screaming well-coordinated and compassionate rendition of "You sad bastard, you sad bastard." My sworn enemies took it easy on me for round 3. Even Stevie Wonder could have seen the pitiful condition I was in. They knew I was not going to be able to choke their spicy pig slop down, so they just left it at a straight Guinness. I got the regular pint down and in the allotted time and immediately ran off the stage to a loo that thankfully had no queue and threw up like I had never heard anyone, man or beast, throw up before. Do you know how bad a front tooth, this one's fake now, split down to the root, hurts when you projectile vomit through it? I hope you never do. After the pub, I went to the A&E, which is accident and emergency, or what we Americans call the ER. I looked exactly like the monster sloth from the Goonies. I thought about yelling, "Hey, you guys!" in the way he always did, but my entire being hurt way too much for any yelling. The doctor looked me up and down, shook his head, and said, "Ah, mate, they fucked you up a bit." Well, did you win? Looking back on this now, while the rugby scene was easily when I felt the most intense peer pressure to drink alcohol, its lesson is much more insidious. The moral of this story is how easy it is to slip into bad habits and bad behavior, how easily it is to fall prey at the old, bad cliches of acting like a man. That cocky college student who was willing to risk his appendages and intestinal lining to prove he was one of the guys, he is the same guy with a beautiful wife and young kids at home, later drunk texted his attractive Uber driver for sex on an extremely drunk golf trip with a bunch of other men. He is the same who slipped into the back room of a strip club on that same trip and another golf trip later. He's the same guy who went to a massage parlor for sex just a few months later. Whether I was a college student or a fully grown man with a wife and kids at home, I continued to believe the lie that if I didn't drink, I wasn't truly a man. And if I weren't a man, no one would ever love me. Due to watching my father beat my mother and having him abandon me, I unconsciously grasped for attention, validation, and love from alcohol and people my whole life. I became unconsciously addicted to trying to get others to love me. To do that, however, I needed to show the subjects of my affection that I was a man, worthy of their love. At least that's how I thought amidst my warped alcohol buzz state. I hope you got something out of this, if not just a few laughs at me. Remember to ask questions, subscribe, click the bell, and visit wearetheafr.org so you stay involved. The God in me recognizes, honors, and loves the God in you. Okay, boom. Da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Thank you guys for your patience. I know that it wasn't easy.